owns what music, art, and images in the age of AI is being challenged in the courts right now. Northgate Radio's Licha Huang is here to talk about it with us. Hey, Licha!
Hey, Holly.
So we just heard a Stanford professor talk about how he thinks the creative process and generative AI can possibly coexist. But until we get there, there's a lot of visual artists, actors, and musicians who are really concerned that their jobs are at stake.
Right, Holly, we spoke to a background actor in Hollywood. Her name is Katie, but she doesn't want to give us her last name because she is afraid that it might limit her career opportunities. But she's really worried about how AI might impact her career.
The use of AI was a really contentious issue in the recent strikes.
Katie has been working in Hollywood for 3 years, and she says studios are already using AI to copy the actor's image.
Like they will film you and other people in different spots, but then kind of replicate that so it makes it look like there's more people in a setting than there are. And that kind of is on the same wavelength as AI because you're able to digitally create more people than you actually hire or than you actually have working there. So I have seen that.
So she's talking about CGI? Do we consider that AI?
I think some would argue that, like Katie says, CGI is on the same continuum as AI. And she's afraid that as the technology gets better, studios will just have computers replacing background actors.
Being a background actor is a stepping stone that could lead you to getting larger roles. And if they eliminate that, I think it eliminates so much opportunity. So it not only takes away immediate jobs and immediate money for us, but it would take away our ability to climb up the ladder in Hollywood.
Okay, Licha, so who owns a background actor's image in film and television? Like, how does copyright work with AI?
Well, I'm wondered the same thing. So we talked to an expert on intellectual property.
So my name is Colleen Chen. I'm a professor at law at Berkeley Law School.
So what'd she say?
Well, she said it's complicated.
Because the copy itself would be potentially owned by the studio. They're making the recording, but a person still has an interest in their own right of publicity and trademark, etc.
Professor Chen says the lawyers are still arguing it out in the court, and we are still in a place where they are throwing out ideas about how it should work.
So you can have trademark-based theories of infringement that come from a person's image or likeness. Say you take Reese Witherspoon, or let's take somebody more famous. You take Taylor Swift and you put her in a generated image having her sell beer, for example. That is going to be an infringement because it will look like her brand is being associated with this product, which she has not authorized. You can also have other types of torts. Torts are basically if somebody hurts somebody else, it could be intentional infliction of emotional distress if you take somebody's image and create a deep fake based on it in a way that's going to be very distressing to the person. So there are a number of different theories that can be used to protect someone's likeness.
Okay, so these issues aren't just in Hollywood. There's been a number of lawsuits filed by visual artists against some of these generative AI art tech companies. These artists are claiming that tech companies are ripping off their work and have sued.
And we wanted to see where the law was on this issue of copyright and AI. Professor Chen says technology has forced the law to rethink copyright issues.
So in the 15th century, we saw the development of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. And of course, we had woodblock printing in China before that, Korean bookmaking even before that. But this German goldsmith, Gutenberg, came up with a screw-type wine press allowing printing to take place in mass production. So in that case, the printing press did allow for mass production of books and written words, and that led to the need for copyright law. Copyright law is seen as a direct response to the development of the printing press.
Okay, so another example technology like this would be the videotape. And the concern was that people were recording TV shows and ripping off the shows. Is that copy infringement?
Well, the court said no if it's just for you to use.
Copyright law basically gives an exclusive right to an author or the owner of a work the right to copy. So we've seen before technology evolves and the law has to follow as well.
So now we're at AI. And you asked Professor Chen, What are these issues at play in these lawsuits?
Yeah, and there are a couple of kind of lawsuits here. In the first kind, artists are claiming these generative AI programs are copying their work.
You mean those programs where you can say, like, draw me a clock in the style of Salvador Dali?
Yeah, and artists said those drawings are ripping off their work. But Professor Chen asks, what if you are not that famous?
So one of the factors that, and what a lot of people consider to be the most important factor, is does this new work displace the market for the original? Those claims, I think, are less likely to succeed because in most cases, they're not merely copying an existing work. It can happen, like, for example, an image of Snoopy. So if you say, produce me an image of Snoopy, it might look like ones that have been produced in the past. But typically, that's not what the output looks like.
So there's another kind of lawsuit that's been filed, and that's of artists who say these tech companies used their work without permission to train their AI programs. And these tech companies stand to make a lot of money, in part off of their work.
And Professor Chen says these lawsuits might have a chance.
One of the, I think, more compelling claims in the copyright lawsuits against tech companies is the use of data, copyrighted images, copyrighted, music, copyrighted works in terms of books. So when you are training an LLM, you need to give it a lot of information and text or images or something else. And so in the process of doing that, you'll make copies, and that is potentially a violation of the copyright law unless you have some defense that you can pose, like fair use. So I think the stronger claims are about the training process, and it's very difficult to get around or imagine how you could change the training process to avoid copyright.
Okay, let's say that the artists win against the tech companies. That'd be a huge blow.
Right, because tech companies have to throw away all their work and basically buy the art to start training the computer all over again.
Or scour the internet for art that's offered for free?
Well, that wouldn't be nearly enough examples. But Professor Chen doesn't think it's going to get to that. She says that is way too much at stake for the tech companies.
Typically what will happen is parties, as they get to the point of litigation and it becomes clear that the case will go forward or that a court is going to rule one way or the other, the parties will say, it's in both our interests that we make a deal here. So let's try to work together to come up with some sort of licensing scheme or way in which we can transfer money back to the artists and creators. And so a lot of times these lawsuits settle before they actually get to the point where a judge puts out an edict saying, pay a lot of money or stop in the future.
And Professor Chen points out, while the law is still trying to figure it out, public opinion is starting to side with these artists.
I think what's interesting is to think about the impact of these lawsuits, not only in the courthouse and before a jury, but also in the forum of public opinion. What I think we are seeing is public sentiment being expressed in a way that says, it's not necessarily fair for people's work that they poured their life into to be absorbed by a generative AI model and then used to displace that original work. The idea that by just putting your work out there, you're going to be susceptible to having that work be absorbed, trained upon, and then used to generate new content that's going to compete with you is something that struck a lot of people as not fair.
That's Northgate radio reporter Licha Huang, who interviewed UC Berkeley professor Colleen Chin.